Far Lone Sails is a tragic story with a glimpse of hope absolutely worth the small investment. Minimalism and sound design, when built upon one another, can help you set sail for a brief moment that has lasting impact.
For me, though there aren't words to tell the tale, the music, the moments, the drive to keep your vessel maintained, this journey is worth your time to see what awaits not too far from the beginnings of managing your companion. Simple, short, heartfelt. Don't miss this one.
Let's talk about it for a bit.
Welcome to Bits of Time, where we answer the simple question, is this video game worth your time? I am Michael, one of your time-saving hosts for the day.
And I'm still Larry. Hi.
Are you ready to talk about Far Lone Sails today? This little indie game?
I'm actually really excited to talk about this one. And I noticed from our intros, I think we're both following along the same path on this one.
All right, well, we'll get right into it. We both finished this game.
That's a shocker for me.
Yeah, I know. How long did it take you to finish this one?
I believe I may have had some tomfoolery with my timing because I checked on my Xbox because I didn't write down my time when I completed it for some reason.
Of course.
I don't know why. Well, I mean, I do know. I'm lazy at that. It says I played for 5 hours and 5 minutes. However, I let my daughter start playing on her own file on this. Well, a new file on my file.
Gotcha.
And so I'm pretty sure it took me probably about 3.5 hours to beat. And I think the average is about 3 hours is what I saw.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
it usually takes me a little bit longer than normal.
Yeah, it took me 2 hours, 58 minutes, and 55 seconds. So
3 hours.
Three. That's basically 3 hours, but it's not. So we both finished this game, completed it. Not 100% completed it. We'll call it that. I don't know. Maybe you got all the achievements or trophies or whatever. I did not.
You know, I had a screen cap and I forgot I think I was at 14.
I don't know how many trophies are in the game. So
Watch was only 10.
Yeah. I know I missed at least one or two. This game released worldwide May 17th in 2018. It was developed by Okamotive. This is their first release, which is pretty cool. They were published by Mixed Vision. They have a bunch of other games on there that they've published. I don't recognize anyone. So this is my first Mixed Vision game, and obviously it's my first Okamotive game because it's their only one.
No, I will say this, just spoilery. I will 100% be interested in more of their games because I was quite taken aback. This game, complete shock. Had never even heard of it. And then you were like, play this. And I was like, okay.
See, there's a good recommendation right there. Go play this game.
That's my recommendation. Just end the episode right there. Just go play it.
So a quick background before we dive into our thoughts, questions, and all that, discussions about Far Lone Sails. But right away, we both recommend this. It's worth your time. So if you want to stop, go play it, go for it, and then come back and listen to a discussion. But this game started from a bachelor's student project, which is pretty cool. So Don Schmacher being the lead developer, and eventually he kept working on it with a fellow student, Goran Saric, I want to say is how you pronounce his name.
Cool name.
They opened up their studio, Okamotive, in 2017, and obviously the game released 2018. Schmacher, the guy that started with it, he got his inspiration from different media's books and whatnot, but since we're talking about video games, his two standout video games that he got inspiration from was Journey and Little Big Planet. I thought those were kind of interesting, but I can kind of see the DNA of those games both in this a little bit.
I can actually kind of see the goofy animation style or whatever the heck that main character is has a little Big Planet, and the way that you pick up the fuel blocks, definitely, I would say Little Big Planet-y. The Journey side of it is just, I would say Journey inside, like any type of game like that, it has those vibes.
100%. I feel like Journey, any game that's almost released, everybody's like, Journey vibes. So that makes sense. But it's cool that that game directly influenced him. And real quick, I love this quote I found in an interview at gamedeveloper.com by Joel Koture, something like that. Couture. He's talking about creating the game as a side-scroller, but this quote pertains to a concept of the game itself. Quote, "This choice is closely linked to my vision of making a game that takes a different approach to the use of vehicles and creates a special atmosphere and sense of dependence on your vessel." End quote.
I mean, just based on that quote alone, when we get into the questions, that's one of my big talking points is the vehicle to me is actually the character. I don't even I have literally no idea what the heck our little dude is.
It's a her. That's
or
the
dudette.
That's the one thing I learned.
Okay. Don't know if we're like a little minion, if it's a little, no idea. So I treated the vessel as the actual main character of the game, which I thought was actually really cool.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's what they were trying to do, which is great. You know what? It kind of makes me think about, this is kind of a weird analogy, but BT from Titanfall 2. They wanted you to care about that character. Obviously, that one talked, and there were some back and forth quips between those two, but it kind of a similar situation where they're taking a robot or a vehicle and making you care about it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we need a BT 2.0 in Titanfall 3.
If there is.
It's a lot of numbers there.
If there's a Titanfall 3.
I wish. Work on it. All right, so before we get into the gameplay story, we both beat the game in roughly about 3 hours.
Correct.
You asked me a question saying that as of, I believe the game was $14.99, and it's about a 3-hour experience. And so you asked me, kind of the age-old debate, is it worth it? Is that a good price point? And
so we're talking worth of dollar to time, not just... Our podcast is about time, and we both think it's worth your time, but is it worth your money with that amount of time invested?
Yeah, and I think, too, this is the age-old debate of, if you take a game, it's 3 hours long, you pay $30 for it, that's $10 an hour. You always kind of it used to always be used the movie analogy.
Yeah.
And so for me, I actually think, for starters, I 100%, I think this is more than worth your time for $15. So before I get into the Game Pass analogy I wanted to talk about, do you think it's worth the price point at $15?
I do. I feel like that's a solid price for an indie developer. Now,
what about $60?
So no. So
Okay,
that's the hard part. I'm not one to do the whole dollar per hour or whatever it is.
Agreed.
Hour spent on it. But I also don't behoove anybody that wants to look at that. Like let's say they only buy a couple games a year, they want to probably get more bang for their buck. So I wouldn't tell them to go get this game if that's their mindset.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my big takeaways there is I'm someone who enjoys experience more than actual amount of time. And so to me, this game gave me a lasting experience. But the reason why I asked you the $60 thing was, there is a cutoff point, clearly. I don't know where it's at, but I think even $45 would be too much for a game like this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard choice. I don't know where you draw the line, but if you're looking for that much content, this isn't the game for you.
Agreed.
You can probably do a replay 1 or 2 times and you'd be okay, but this is not going to last you over 10 hours.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me into Game Pass, for instance, the sequel, it will be on Game Pass.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a day one Game Pass, so it's going to be pretty interesting. So my point is, I'm wondering, for as much, I'm very high on Game Pass. We'll get into that, I'm sure, down the road. But I can say the one negative that it might start having is a game like this would end up causing an issue of, are people going to start being trained to expect that 3-4 hour long games are games that are expected to be on Game Pass? Why would I ever pay $15? I
can't believe it's coming to Game Pass. I just looked it up.
Oh, no, it was a great
game.
Yeah, it's a great.
I'm trying to listen to you too, but
no, it's okay. And so I'm just wondering if for games like this, that's a prime example of, are we going to end up having people like $15 for this? I might as well just wait for Game Pass. And then Sony, all the AAA games are the ones that you pay your $60-$70 for.
Honestly, I think we're training ourselves to think like that, because I can already see that argument in my head of, yeah, why wouldn't I just wait? It's an indie game. It'll probably come to Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I hope they got a big old sack of money, but I want to give them my money. So, that's the hard part with me.
And technically, though, in theory, on Game Pass, they're getting their bundle of money. We just don't see it. It's behind the scenes.
Correct.
But that being said,
and hopefully it'll be more accessible to other people then, and hopefully maybe they will go back, try that, and then play the first game.
Yeah, well, and again, in our agreement here, we both agreed for $15, and I'm sure you could probably get it for cheaper now. I don't know, maybe it's on, it'll be on sale here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
$15 for 3-hour experience. This particular game, I think we both agreed it's definitely worth it. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
Okay,
and I think. Yeah, in my mind, it is worth the $15. I don't need to ever go back to it. Yeah, I think I'm good there.
Okay, so that's an interesting take then, too, because I know from my perspective, I was watching my daughter play, and that's why I think my time's up a little bit higher than it's supposed to be.
Yes.
I'm not that slow. However, just watching it from my daughter's point of view, I can also agree with you. I would have no need to want to replay this game. I think just being able to listen to the music on the side and whatever platform you want is good enough. And this is definitely a one-time game. But man, you keep thinking about it.
Yeah, that definitely. It lingers with you, which is great. You did mention the music is a standout portion. I agree with you. Music is by Joel Schock. Schoch.
Ooh, well done.
Joel Shock.
You later
Shosh.
asked me for some of my memorable moments, and he is attributed to definitely one of them at least.
Okay, cool.
Actually, probably two. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
So this game I alluded to in my intro is that there's no dialogue. This is all atmospheric storytelling. This is the focus of the game. Do you like that in these types of games, or do you just like that in games in general?
Yeah, I would say, especially as I've gotten older, I've started noticing that there is a select few games that are rising up on my list of like favorite games I've played of all time. Inside's on there. I would even put Gris. It's just I wouldn't put it up.
One.
Yeah, it's just these types of games where there's just kind of the background there. You don't get any people talking to you. All, like you said, the storytelling, the building of the world is all just happening in the background. And I actually, for some reason, really like it. And I think, as you put it, I think we both said sound design, music. That is such an important piece to like the buildup of these games. And silence plays such a good role.
No, that's yeah.
And yeah, I don't need the dialogue, I guess. Now, again, if this was a 10, 15-hour game, I think at some point I'd be like, man. And I'm sure someone will come up with a way to do it eventually. I feel like 3 hours is like the sweet spot. Gris was like that. Inside was like that. This is like that.
Now that I'm thinking about this, what if somebody made like a 10-hour game, but the last hour you finally hear somebody talk or something like that?
Yeah,
maybe that'd be pretty impactful, right?
Yeah, or do it the other way. Have the first hour talking, and then the world gets stripped of sound or something like that.
That's free ideas. You're welcome, people.
That's like Risk-esque if you think about it a little bit.
A little bit.
Ooh. Yeah, no, but I'm 100% in favor. I want more of this stuff.
Why do you think? Because you've started that phrase with "since I've gotten older." Is there a reason? Do you think that's tied in any reason, or is it just because of your taste changing or whatever?
Yeah, I think I've become more patient. I've become more laid back. I enjoy soundtracks more than I ever have in games. It used to be, with Halo back in the day, you had these banging soundtracks. Yeah, StarCraft, all these games that we used to play as kids. But the gameplay is what hooked me, and it was like fast paced, and like I was always in front of it. There's something about sitting back. I played this on my Xbox Series S on a couch, just kind of relaxing and enjoying what the people behind the game wanted you to experience. I think that just goes such a long way. And there's something about this style of game. I feel like you can almost appreciate that more sometimes than all the subtle dialogue all over the place.
That's
especially
true.
if it's randomized dialogue from just pointless NPCs.
the background noise, basically. That is a good point because it is more front and center because that is the focus of the game. They chose not to do dialogue. They chose that all their world building is atmospheric, so then you are kind of drawn to it in that regard.
Oh, yeah. And just, I would even say like the footsteps of our character, the way that blocks sound when they hit each other, the way your ship or your vessel sounds as it like smacks into things, the rain, the way the hail hits. There's just all the sound, especially since there is no dialogue, every bit of sound is almost that much more important. And then, like I mentioned earlier, when there's a lot of sound and then it gets stripped away.
Yeah, it's
that
more
eerie
impactful
silence.
that way. Oh, yeah, it's so good. This game does that very, very well. So I think for me, when it's done right, like a game like this, like a game like Inside, I generally want the combination of both. I want to hear dialogue from people, just maybe small snippets here and there, but I think it also depends on the type of game. I mean, I love my RPGs, and I don't see an RPG working when there's only world telling, where the world is the only thing that's telling the tale.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking just like sound design, like literally just text on screen, like in the old school ones.
Yeah, I mean,
just removing all of that.
And I mean, I have played RPG-like games that there's only a narrator telling the story, but even still, that'd be different. Maybe there's an example out there that I have no idea, and somehow it would work, but I don't think that is. I think platformers are right in doing this correctly, like the Metroidvanias and like where a little dialogue is needed and you can set the stage with this. But puzzle platformers like this, they seem to be just breeding grounds for this type of storytelling where you don't have to have dialogue. Okay. I think that's pretty cool.
No, I agree. And I guess that's the natural jump off point then. So speaking of the story, we don't have any dialogue.
Yeah. What is it telling you? Is that what you're going to...
Yeah. What's going on? What did you get out of it? What do you think happened before the game started? Or at least what was happening as soon as the game started at that grave?
Yeah. So obviously you were partaking in a funeral of some kind. Somebody dear to you, to this girl that I found out from the research. She lost somebody, whether it was an uncle, whether it was a brother, whether it was father, mother.
So it was kind of interesting. The little bit of research that I did was, I believe, and I could be wrong, feel free to correct me. I'll correct myself in a tweet or something like that down the line. I believe that's our father.
Why do you think that?
That's literally what people were talking about. And then Mr. Inventor guy is supposedly our uncle. Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that, but you know what? Who knows?
They even have have a name for the character.
It doesn't even matter because it doesn't matter who it is. All you have to know is that you're doing a burial and you're moving on. And I think that's the whole point of the game.
It's the whole point of the game? Just moving on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Obviously, the vehicle you have, which is super cool, we'll talk about all the mechanics of it. But it definitely looks worn, like it's beat up, it's gone through it. So that... Obviously, that has a connection to this person. They've probably been traveling along with this person for a long time, and so they're just trying to go on their own journey now.
Okay. What do you think the state of the world is?
Obviously, it's post-apocalyptic. I mean...
What do you think happened?
Well, it starts off, and you're kind of like you're in a harbor, but everything's dried up. Something happened with the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a catastrophic event where... everybody just started making these vehicles to traverse the new land. I mean, that would make sense because there's checkpoints along the way where you can change up your wheels and whatnot. So that means this has been around for a while, these new types of vehicles. And obviously we have the inventor guy that we go to and then get the giant one, which is freaking cool. I love it. My guess is there was some global event and now you are using these to transport. So the only thing that doesn't make any sense to me then is why is there no planes or flying stuff, but maybe we'll get that in the sequel. Who knows?
Well, and on top of that, and something to think about is it's not necessarily that this was Earth, right? So it doesn't, there may have never been planes.
I guess they never really.
But so this was my idea, and this only happened because this is actually, I'm going to just link in one of my 3 favorite moments that happened in the game. I'd probably put this one at number 2.
Okay.
Actually, I'd probably put it at my number 1. I believe, whatever the life forms were, I think we kind of see there was a technological advance and then everything came crashing down. I think that has something to do with the fact that there's such crazy weather systems.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if there's a little bit of a political message about climate change and technology and stuff. But the part that I noticed and the part that I really like, one of my favorite, because it was like a Bioshock-esque moment for me. And that was, so there's a point in the game where our vehicle gets stuck and the music, everything stops. And there's little chatter of voices on a radio happening.
Oh, I love that.
And then you jump off and you're not really sure how to solve the issue of getting your vessel across this blockade. And so you just have to start heading right. Just walk. And it gets to an uncomfortable amount of time that you're having to walk where you're like, did I miss something? Do I have to turn around and go back? I don't understand. And then finally you get to a point where you can do a little bit of a puzzle venture and then you can take a gondola back. And just as you're on that thing, in the background, there's a billboard and there's 2 lights that kind of flicker and then they go out. And on the billboard, it says, "We build our future."
Yeah, it's so good.
Which makes me think there was a lot of technology happening at some point. They were trying to do something and it went catastrophically wrong. Mm-hmm. And so now we're in a collapsed civilization. I think we're perhaps seeing a whole bunch of stranded people, which then would go into where I think the ending is happening, which we can talk about in a little bit. But since I kind of jumped into that, that's my take on the story. I kind of think we're trying to. I don't even know if we're necessarily running away. I almost feel like we're trying to just find more people. Our existence, our person's alone now. They need to go find someone else because the person they were with, maybe if I was wrong about my research, maybe that's not the dad. Maybe that was a husband, a boyfriend, a brother, a friend.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
I think that, now you got me thinking maybe We Build Our Future is they went so crazy with technology and robots. They're like, you know what? No, we're going to do it ourselves again.
I feel like it's darker than that. For some reason, I just have a hunch, especially with Crazy Inventor, because I don't know if you ever saw on the walls of when you're inside the giant ship before the big reveal, there's all these portraits and there's different versions of the giant walker that we're in. You see one that looks like it's more fast-paced.
Yeah, so they're inventing a bunch of stuff.
So it looks like there's a lot. So my hunch is because we don't see any of those and it looks like everything's just barren wasteland, that technology peaked, we screwed it up, and now we're in the, like you said, the post-apocalyptic world side of things. That seems hopeless.
Which is cool. Yeah. And I think that's part of the game is, I mean, we should probably just talk about the ending since we're talking about everything. I think it went from a hopelessness, your vehicle is crashed, cracked in half, and then it ends on a very hopeful note.
Yeah, with the horn.
Yeah, that's all you see, and it's ending. And I was just like, when that happened, I was like, oh, yeah.
That's somebody else. It's kind of funny because I was reading online. A lot of people seemed really saddened by the end. And I don't know if they didn't read into the fact that that's clearly the horn, a foghorn of like another vessel somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it did sound like a ship, which she did make it towards water, right? At the very end.
Yeah.
So
we were on our little bonfire campfire thing.
Yeah.
We lit.
Oh, I was going out. Oh, my God. I was like, they're going to do me like this. It's just going to be one of those pointless endings. And then they had that. It's funny how much that changes the ending for me.
100%. If it just fades, then it's like, okay, are we just going to starve to death? Like, what happens?
Broke my vehicle. I can't get anywhere.
I mean, now that I think about it, though, do we eat? We never.
The vehicle eats quite a bit.
That's true.
I did really enjoy the ending, though. I think it was poignant. I think it was a really nice like crescendo that dropped real hard. Like you were at the end, and then it was like whoosh, disaster, and then it ends.
Well, okay. Well, what's the next logical step for like the next game? Like what happens after the credits roll? Mm-hmm. But I feel like just podcasting form. Let's wait for that for a second.
Okay.
So my question is, so to get from point A to B all the way to the finish there was a gameplay loop for you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of it? Were the puzzles enough? Was there too much? Was there not enough to do? Did you feel like the puzzles got in the way?
No, I feel like puzzle platformers aren't my favorite part of the genre, but I really, really enjoyed this one. One, it could be because A, it's a little bit shorter, and B, I think the puzzles felt genuine.
Ooh, okay. So that's actually a pretty good take. I think I went a step further where, because to me I had such an attachment to the vessel itself that there's a unique boundary that sometimes these games can straddle, and that is puzzles can get annoying if you just want to experience the story
real quick. Yeah.
But then so puzzles can actually feel more like obstacles in that sense. For some reason, this game, I was so just wanting to make sure my ship was, quote unquote, okay, that the puzzles always came to me as like this just event where I'm like, I just got to get past this. I almost didn't think of them as puzzles anymore. They were just something I needed to do to make sure I could get my ship and keep it going with me. And when a game can get into that flow for me, it's why the game went by so quick. They didn't feel like I was doing a puzzle. It was just like, I got to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my vessel. I can't do that.
On top of that, I feel like because of that, where you feel like they've masked by being just good puzzles and you want to see the end of it. I feel like in this one, the puzzles were also world building, because usually everything that you stopped at, there was some lore hidden in there, like for instance changing out your tires once you blow them. Well, okay, obviously they have station to change out these. The gondola thing was perfect with the radio towers, so all the puzzles felt genuine. They didn't feel like just puzzles to me, and maybe that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah, I do feel like now, coming from someone who doesn't always like go 100% into games and complete them, I wonder if you keep the radio on, if there is more talking that happens on a regular basis.
Well, I kept the radio with me the entire time, and the signal goes away.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, okay. Which is very clever. I love
that's
it.
Cool. I like that.
So I'm sure there might be more, but that radio is just, oh God, the radio crackle, like that sound effect, because everything's so quiet, and then you have that, and then a lot of the mechanics, I suppose, of operating your vehicle vessel, I thought would get really tedious, but I think they might
I'm gonna stop you for a quick second. On this podcast, we are officially deciding to use the term vessel. I just think it's cooler than vehicle.
Okay, so my vessel mechanics to keep it running, I thought we're going to get to the tedium. I think they straddle that line so perfectly. I know somebody out there, they're going to hate that. Like keeping up with the resources, the fuel, making your vessel eat, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was a little nervous early on. The OCD in me, I was in a freak out because I was like, man, every time I see a freaking box or anything laying around, I'm going to need to go grab it. And
I definitely did that.
And I did. But it never got to the point where it was too extreme. There were points where I was like, oh my gosh, like there's just so much stuff rattling around. And I had like I always had to have things hanging on the hangers.
Yeah.
As soon as one ran out, I had to make sure I replaced it.
Man, I had points where it was just a cluster. And I was trying to get in and out of stuff. Oh, man, it was great.
Well, I think there was one point in the game where I hit a wall too hard. And it didn't break the ship, but like clearly it launched stuff like all over the place. So I spent another like 10 minutes like cleaning everything up and putting it back where it needed to be.
Oh, I'm so mad. There's a trophy in this game for taking that little red toolbox with you the entire way. And
really?
I knew there was going to be a trophy for that, and I left it there. And,
So
bugs me.
that's actually an interesting point. I think one of the issues I had with gaming for a couple years was I found myself really paying attention to trophies, like before games or achievements. Before games, even before I played them for the first time, I would look at the lists. And so I would go into the game like, okay, well, I probably should do this. And it's like, I wasn't even worrying if I was going to like the game yet. And I've started noticing this was one of the games I started doing. I did not pay attention to the achievements my first playthrough. It was my only playthrough, and so whenever I got one, it was like a pleasant surprise.
You know what? That's exactly what I did with this game. I just learned after. I was like, I wonder how many trophies are away from doing it. I was like, of course, that little.
But I'm telling you, in like achievement land, trophy land that we all live in now, like I really, really think just that first playthrough, I understand.
Especially with short games like this. Like if it's a long RPG and you only want to run through it, go for it. Use that walkthrough, baby.
I think there's something about like almost being surprised at the achievements you get. Because like I can't remember what game it was recently, but I had something where it was like I did like 150 of something, and I was like, really? That's cool. Like I didn't even know that was something you could do,
which is cool. Yeah.
So
those nice little surprises.
But yeah. So we like the story, we like the sound design, we like the gameplay.
Yeah. Is there any of those mechanics of keeping your vessel going that you thought were tedious, or is it just you're good with them? I mean, you got the hose, you got the suck it up thing, you got.
Yeah,
the fuel.
It took me a little while to like efficiently use like the vacuum.
Yes, I agree.
I
love that thing.
Dude. I know. Once you figure out how to use it properly, it's so efficient. But I always would get like something stuck, and then it was like, why is it not working? Or I would like the most annoying thing that happened to me all the time was my vehicle would end up dragging a little bit too far. And so I would jump out trying to be convenient, and then it would just drag on a little bit too bit. So then I had to go literally all the way back around and go out the front of the vessel to go grab the block that I was trying to grab. It used to happen all the time.
Yeah, my thing was I would try and stop it. It would go under the
loading dock.
Yeah, the loading dock, and you shove it down, and it wouldn't go on. You're like, oh.
Yeah. No, so I think for me, like it was definitely like a weird mechanic, and I thought introducing like the sail, introducing damage and overheating, there was enough things that would keep you busy. I loved like running around with your little water hose. Just again, the animations are cute, they're simple, and that's where the Little Big Planet definitely comes in. So I completely understand that. I don't know why I always just felt like I was a pro when I would get it going, and then I could climb all the way up onto the top of the ship and stand outside while it was going.
Dude, I tried to do that so many times. I don't know if it's just the atmosphere of this game or whatever. I was like, I just want to be up,
but
with the wind in my face.
I will say though, there were moments where I would do that, and then I started having PTSD. Like, is there a wall coming up? Like, I need to go hit the brakes quick. And so you'd have like those moments, and there was multiple times I used to stack stuff on top of there when it was getting too crowded. And every time you get to a point where I had to hit the brakes, you'd see all the stuff launch off, and you're like, there's 5 more minutes. But it was like a fun, and I can understand it would definitely annoy people, but it was a fun annoyance for me.
Yeah,
and I think that just shows you like how in tune to the vessel I really became. Like I just really, really enjoyed it. I was like, that was my place. It was mine. I wanted it to look. I didn't want it to get hurt. I wanted it to look how I wanted it to look.
Yeah, it's funny that one of the first places I put the radio was like in the bedroom section. I was like,
mine was hanging.
I would listen to my radio in the bedroom, so that's where I'm going to put it.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, though, so then speaking of, like, was there anything that really was too annoying? Was there a puzzle that sticks out to you as being too annoying? Or
no, so I have this section called Quick Bits, and there's only 2 things I found, I guess, negative is not even the right word, just odd or a little strange. And one of them, there's a trophy named, which I'm sure there's achievement named, is Pimp My Ride. And I don't know why that trophy bugs me so much, but the name of the trophy itself bugs me, Pimp My Ride. I feel like it's so out of place in this world. In the context of this particular game, it just seems weird to me.
I mean, it's a weird naming. I guess that would be a nitpick. I guess I didn't even notice that. I think, is that one where you need to have like...
I think it's when you get your wheels, but I could be wrong.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah. No, I don't remember being annoyed by that, but I actually don't remember there being one called that. So that probably would have bugged me had I noticed it.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just seems so out of place. Not that it's wrong. Somebody probably loves that.
It also probably doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the actual game.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway.
It doesn't affect the game at all. And then the jumping is a bit odd. Something is off there.
It's floaty, right? Like too floaty.
And it feels... Where's the politest way to put this? It feels indie. Not enough to ruin the experience.
Okay, please elaborate. That seemed degrading.
Especially in platformers, I think of very tight, precise platformers. This is not that. This is a puzzle platformer, so it's totally different. But a lot of times you can feel when a game uses that jump mechanic, it just feels slightly off. It's not as smooth. It's a little more staggered or rough.
Okay, do you remember the game Inside? Like the actual...
Yes.
Not obviously you remember it, but like playing it?
Yes.
Do you remember the jump mechanic in that game where when you would jump, I always felt like you had to like double jump because you mistimed things all the time?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe in a sense, add like a double or triple length of that version of the jump. Now that game, it feels a little heavier, but it felt off in that game too.
See,
to me, this feels off in the opposite way. To me, I thought it was too floaty. Like
so
it
in
wasn't
Inside,
precise.
I feel like they made it try to be realistic of a kid jumping, so it's going to feel awkward and weird. And this one, I just feel like it feels indie, stilted, whatever. Like a Hat in Time feels a little floaty and off to me.
I never played that one.
Yeah, people love it, but to me, that's just how it felt. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't really ruin the game for me. One of the cool moments I just thought about when you jump off your vessel and you can just float.
Oh,
It's so cool.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's like you're like a personal little umbrella.
I suppose that would be like a take where that's a little bit like the Journey character too.
I could see that being part of the influence, the red in general, the floatiness of that. So,
okay, so before we move on to just the end and what we kind of want out of the sequel,
well,
any
did
final
you
thoughts?
have any negative points?
Nope.
Really? Well, that's good. I mean, that's great.
No negative in the sense that there's nothing that took away or detracted from the game enough that really made me dislike it. There could be maybe more things to do. I thought maybe having like a headlight or like a light mechanic to the game could have been kind of cool. I thought they were actually going to go that way.
Oh, instead of it being an automatic when it became night?
Yeah, like where it was just something like you couldn't see the obstacles in front of you, so you needed headlights to slow down before you smashed into it. I thought maybe that could have, especially with the silence, the eeriness of like getting close to a wall could have been cool, but none of it was needed per se. There was just, I think they could have maybe done a little bit more in areas, but there's nothing in it that makes me think, oh, this game's, I hated that or I disliked that. So for me, for the most part, I enjoyed all of it. What I was trying to get to real quick though was I shared like one of my favorite moments. So you just want to throw a couple of yours, and then I have two. I'm assuming we both have possibly two of the same, but we'll see. I could be wrong.
So one of the standout moments is the first time it turns to night. When we talk about the silence, the headlights going on, the visuals are just astounding. I think I took like 3 screenshots back to back to back. I was like, this just looks beautiful.
Oh, so I'll just tie into that then. For me, since you took screenshots, I uploaded my only clip from Twitter of this game was the moment where you finally get to really set sail and just you blow for a while. Basically, you sail for a while, not blow. And the music really cranks up to that beautiful tune that's going on.
Gosh, yes.
And it lasts for, I feel like, a good 20 seconds or something like that. Maybe even longer.
That's one of my moments too. Just the sailing with the music in the background when it really crescendos and it feels so good.
And if I actually remember the way that was going, it almost for a moment, the way the song started ramping down as you started slowing down, I almost thought for a second they were going to fade it to black there. Just with the way that it happened, I was kind of like, well, wait, what? But then there was obviously so much more. But okay, give me another one of yours.
So then in nighttime, that's when I believe when you get in contact with the radio. I just think the radio is just this cool centerpiece to that segment of the game where you're hearing something for the first time, singing and whatever.
Do you think they could have done more with the radio, or was it just static enough?
I think it was enough.
Because it almost, now that I think about it, maybe the fact that there wasn't, again, you heard voices every once in a while. And again, it was brilliant. The voices popped up when you were near a tower. So which makes you wonder what else is going on out there.
Is that a leftover loop? Or
I also think, though, that maybe because it was silent, you're constantly, so this is spoilery, expecting and waiting for there to be something else. And that's enough to keep you wanting to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other parts of the game just take over for you. So, yeah, that might be, it's almost like a little bit of trickery.
Yeah, it's probably just, it's the carrot at the end of the stick.
Yeah. Okay, well, but then for me, I think obviously a standout moment for most people is when the reveal happens, when you finally get the big machine, that your Star Wars walker.
Yeah.
And, but to me, the brilliance of it was that subtle pan back and that just big time dramatic music hits.
Bombastic, yeah.
But then how quickly it goes away. Like, there was almost like that, the head into the, you just kind of sink your head down like, oh, really? It's like just for that glimpse, they give you a little bit of hope just for a moment and then immediately take it away from you. And that's a really good gameplay design right there. Like that's good plotting. I really, really enjoyed that.
I feel like it meshes everything into one. It's got high music. It's got cool gameplay. It's new reveal. It's lore building. Well, and all those things.
Agreed. And on top of that, for me, I was already like, as I was saying, I was like, okay, well, I can barely see my character. What do I get to change? Where am I going to put all my fuel? Does this thing run on fuel? I was starting to think about all that stuff like right there. And then I was like, oh, I could just step over the walls in this thing. So I was super happy. But yeah, then it's just immediately. And then we're back to our vessel.
Our little guy. Our girl.
Yeah. And then obviously we talked about.
Well, I got a couple more moments.
Oh, you do?
We moved on to you, but that's fine. First sunrise. So the first time it goes night, the first time you see that sunrise, like it's just beautiful out in the sails. And
you like them day-night cycles.
Yeah, apparently. The quiet after the storm. That is super powerful in this game.
The silence, yep.
The sound design is just immaculate. And one moment I loved, leave myself behind while I watch my vessel, run away from me. Because I decided to jump out and go look for something.
Oh, yeah, that happened once too. I missed a block and I was like, I don't need it. And I like second guessed myself last second. So I just jumped out.
And walking to catch up to your vehicle. It's monotonous, but it's great.
So that's actually a good point, though, from the gameplay standpoint, is because your character walks slow enough and can't sprint, really, that's actually a gameplay mechanic where you actually have to think, like, okay, I need my vessel with me. So that actually kind of works in its favor.
Yeah, it reinforces everything that is good about this game.
Which is why my favorite moment that I talked about earlier makes so much sense, because you don't walk fast. They made you pace long enough to think, am I supposed to actually keep going?
And I remember thinking that. I was like, did I miss a triggering event here?
Yeah,
like,
I know. I definitely picture like the gameplay designers like timing it, like the play test, like having like 20, 30 people just test there and see when they start questioning it. And then be like, okay, let's have the segment just be like 5 seconds longer than when they start questioning. Yeah, it was perfect. Beautifully timed.
And we've already talked about the ending. I really like the ending too. But those are my standout moments.
Well, so this kind of leads me then into the point that I'm interested about. I actually realized there was a sequel for this game because of we're doing a fantasy critic
league,
video game league, and you
picked it up. Yeah.
And I was like, didn't that game already come out? And then I saw the title. I was like, what? And so then I watched the trailer. So even, I guess you can incorporate that if you want. What do you think happens next? Like, what happens to our character? Where are we going? What are we doing?
I don't even know if it's the same character. I've watched one quick trailer and I honestly don't remember.
So remove the trailer then. Like, what do we think happens to our character after we fade to black?
They get rescued, obviously.
Yeah. See that was kind of my lasting takeaway. Is like,
I think it's a pretty straightforward.
As soon as the screen went black, I was like, this is a hopeful ending. We're gonna get rescued. I don't know what that means though. Like, is it more of us?
So you're asking what you want in a sequel in general, or what you think the sequel is going to be?
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a new vessel, new character.
I mean, I saw the trailer. We're in a lot of water. So all the water comes back.
Or we get to the water. So it's receded.
Yeah, no, duh.
So maybe it's receded so quickly.
Or... No, wait. No, what are we talking about? We knew that because we got to the coastline. Well, what are we both? You should have corrected me.
Yeah, sorry.
We got to the coastline at the end of the game, so of course there's water.
Yeah, so I assume that means the water is... So maybe it is global warming. Everything warmed up and the water is receding. Yeah, so that makes sense. So I think now if we're just talking about what we want in a sequel, and there is not much I want from the sequel. I just want to have another experience just like this one, which is really weird.
I literally wrote, build upon this world, nothing more for me. Like, I don't need them. It's because it's such a short experience. It's one of those things where I don't actually want them to tweak too much. I feel like there's a possibility, and more games should look into this. If you have these short segmenting, now don't build like a 15-hour game and then cut it into 4 parts. Like, have a start and finish when you build your game, and then let your ideas keep evolving. Like, hey, what can we do next? Obviously, there's going to be some new gameplay mechanics and stuff like that.
But it kind of reminds me of that reminds me of that then. That's a weird sentence, but I think that works. Is like the beginning Mega Man.
Yeah, I can't help you there.
Okay, never mind. Somebody out there knows this analogy. They don't change much.
Here, go look at that wall. It probably knows more about Mega Man than I do.
Well,
Talk to your dog.
But yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I just want to feel this way again and experience something like this again. It doesn't have to be dramatically different. I don't want it to be dramatically different. I just want to be in this world. I want to care about the world. I want to have these atmospheric storytelling once again. I usually, in a sequel, I want a shift in either tone or a wild new location.
I feel like, again, we're cheating, I guess, because we saw the trailer. It's not cheating. We just know. It's clearly a lot more water involved. So that's going to add a lot more to gameplay.
Yeah,
I'm
true.
Curious how they handle that.
I think if they just keep it, you're still micromanaging your vessel, which is new twists on either A, the vessel is different because now you're in water.
Do you think it would be kind of unique as if, like, in the sequel, it was like co-op because you have a buddy, and so there's like a second player you can play with?
I don't know if that would be as impactful. I mean,
I'm not saying I would necessarily like it better, but it would be a unique concept to add.
Disregard that. You can make co-op games very effective. So
yeah.
I just think about me screwing around with my friends or with you in a game.
Yeah.
And that maybe then the poignant moments wouldn't be there because we'd be laughing or talking crap about each other.
Yeah, but like that would be an interesting challenge though. When's the last time you played like a really, really emotional co-op game where you're like, okay, I don't want to cry in front of my friend. I mean, It Takes Two is really good, but it's not.
I haven't played it, so I don't know.
I played it with my daughter. She just laughed the whole time.
So this is kind of funny because it doesn't really work in some regards because I have a certain friend, Dennis, that I play single player games and we just switch off. So those can be very emotional.
Yeah, but that's not
co-op
directed. Like, and again, we're thinking on the spot here. We don't need to like think for the next hour. But that's something to think of. You know what? How about this?
A Way Out. The ending of A Way Out.
Oh, see, I didn't play that one.
Yeah. I wouldn't highly recommend that game, but I thought the ending to that game is interesting.
But so what we're getting at is, can you imagine a game like this with a co-op mechanic where because we got rescued, apparently the other that'll be the interesting thing then too then is if we hear that vessel making all that noise, at least based on what I think I saw in the trailer, there's still only just you. There's no way that little thing that you're floating around in the water made that. I mean, I guess you could attach a foghorn to it, but
I'm sure it's a different person.
So then I wonder what happened to everybody else then.
Well, we might find out. Regardless, I'm sold, and I've been sold ever since I'd known there was a sequel after playing this game. So you should play this game too.
Perfectly said. So there you have it. We rambled for far too long. It is now your time to make a decision. You know what both of us brothers would say. Sail away.